But I'm here to tell you that if you showed up in this place this early in the morning, then you were definitely my type of people. And that question wasn't too difficult for you. Because we're women, right? Women are the best gift ever. We don't sometimes realize how much power and authority we carry because sometimes we feel pretty pressed down, right? I know that there's a lot of women that I talk to and they're like, I just can't make it in a man's world, or I just feel so oppressed all the time. The reality is it's a matter of our attitude. We have got to get to the place where we are so inspired and encouraged every single day that we let comparison go. And the reason I'm talking about comparison, I threw out like 5 titles when they asked me to speak, and that's the one they selected. I was like, ooh, okay, all right. And the reason I did that is because I had found out about 3 years ago, I had this horrible habit of comparing myself. Okay, sometimes I would walk in the room, I would compare my size. Sometimes I would walk into events and I would be like, oh, am I really good enough to be here, or this, that, and the other? Because sometimes we get framed at a very young age. And we start to, maybe someone has said to you, I wish you were more like your sister. Anybody ever hear that? Or I wish you were more like so-and-so's daughter, right? Or even more like your brother. And we would get these things and they would stick. And sometimes when things stick on us, we start to view our world around us through those lenses. So let's talk about what comparison is, how are we going to get rid of it, and how we're going to walk out of this building today transformed, okay? So today we're exploring it, and whenever we define it, comparison involves just the evaluation of ourselves. And we had this conversation at our table over here, and I love Jennifer's answer because she said, I kind of more like look at people and find the good in them and want to adopt that into who I am, or define myself. That is a healthy type of comparison, okay? When you're like, oh my goodness, she went back to college and I've been wanting to do that and I didn't have the confidence to do that, but yet she went back and got her master's or her PhD or whatever, or just her degree, whatever. We can look at that and use that to sharpen us, to get us on task and say, she can do it, I can do it, right? So that's a good form of it. But unfortunately, the majority of women struggle with negative comparison. I was doing a little bit of research, and you always get a handbag of just different stats, right? So I'm not going to give you a specific stat, but across the board, the most average stat that I was getting is 90% of women. 90%. Ladies, it's our time to break out of that. It's our time to set free on our mind of why we want to measure ourselves based on someone else. So social media did not help us in that fact. How many of you all will be scrolling along and you'll be like, oh, they're in the Caribbean again. They're never going to go. Oh my gosh, she went to that concert and I never have time to go enjoy entertainment. Their kids are winning awards again. My kids never do anything. It goes on and on. And we get so caught up. And it doesn't matter if it is internal or external. It's not healthy. So what is the difference between the internal and the external, right? The external, we're looking at it and we're going, man, I wish I could wear that outfit. That is so cute. Or the outward appearance that we look at, we're always measuring up. Oh man, she's got the cutest wardrobe. Or I wish I could wear that. I'll share with the ladies. My comparison has been body image. Okay? Because growing up, I was always the tiniest person. I was never over 89 pounds unless I was pregnant. And people would be like, you're so skinny. You're just like, you don't eat. And then they would go on, are you on drugs? You're on drugs, aren't you? I had a season of that, but that wasn't the case of me being so skinny. That wasn't the case of me being so skinny. And if one of y'all would walk up to me today, and feel free to do this, by the way. You're so skinny, Maggie. I spent half my life comparing myself to people that were saying something that I took as a negative thing. And now I would take it as a positive. So different seasons of our lives, we're going to experience different things. Okay? So I'm not so worried about people telling me I'm skinny now. But it's okay. But comparison steals our joy. And we hear that a lot, right? You've heard that? I think it should be on a bumper sticker, on t-shirts, so we can remind ourselves. Maybe, ladies, we need to put it on our mirror in the bathroom so So first thing in the morning, we know comparison steals our joy. And many people have stated that, but I did some research, and Theodore Roosevelt apparently was the one that publicly said it first. But we all say it in our mind, because we know it's not healthy to do it. Just like we know going over to Julia's bakery and getting a box of Danishes or something is not good either, right? We still do it. So how can we break free from it? It'll distract you from your purpose. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today. Because every one of you in this room, you are here this morning. I mean, when they told me that it was women moving forward, like my nonprofit is moving forward. And I'm like, these are my peeps. Where have they been? I didn't know about y'all. So I'm glad to be here. I came here a couple months ago with my friend Paula. And I was so impressed. First of all, that you guys are out of bed this early with makeup on. Wow, these are impressive women. But we have to focus on our individual purpose. Because if we don't, we're going to compare ourselves. And it breeds so many negative emotions. Negative emotions directly affect every area of our life. It affects our spiritual life. It affects our physical life. And it affects our emotional being. I believe that we are our tribe heart. I believe that we are spirit, soul, and body. So whenever you are feeling pushed down all the time, you're not going to be able to conquer whatever it is you're called to do. Each one of you in here have a calling. I love the mission that she was talking about. Honey, we have there's very similar backgrounds. Very similar. I had a child out of wedlock at 20, and I was also a high school dropout. And now I have a master's degree. Don't tell me that we cannot put our feet to the grind and do what we need to do to overcome the negative stuff. Yeah, my master's grade was the 8th grade because I was so busy worried about the way I looked and the way I felt that I wanted to cover those things up. And so I used substances. I was a pothead, and then I got on cocaine and all kinds of different things. I did every single drug that is available out there. And at the time, crack wasn't a thing. But if it was, I probably would have ended up a crack addict. I'm just saying. But I started to realize something deep within. There was something lacking. I didn't know who I was. If I really knew who I was and that I had a purpose and there was a plan for my life, I wouldn't have thrown that away. So I spent half of my life in dysfunction, total dysfunction, because I couldn't deal with the whole comparison. I would never be able to live up to the expectations that I thought that I needed to live up to. I didn't realize I was okay in my little teeny tiny squatty body, right? I had to be, it was so, and when you look at people that are bound up in their mind, that's where it starts. The battlefield is right here, and we're constantly what we think, what we want, what we feel, and we're just going around just like a robot, kind of being stuck in those, trying to get those needs met. But when you figure out who you are, and more importantly, some of you in here know who you belong to, your whole perspective on life changes. It changes, totally transformed. When I used to be the woman that the glass, people say the glass is half full or the glass is half empty, right? My glass was neither. My life and my whole perspective of life in comparison with other women was not only is the glass broken, there's jagged edges everywhere and they're going to cut you, and it's just a waste of time. Why bother? But then I realized it was a trap. And whenever you have a trap, it'll lead you into so many dark places. It'll affect you and give you low self-image, which I have really low self-image. It also will make you feel unworthy. How many of y'all, when someone says to you, you look beautiful today, you're like, oh, you can't really receive that compliment? Do you ever get like that? Or, oh, I love your shoes. I'm just picking up at Maria Liz, or, I picked them at the yard sale, whatever. You always deflect from that comment because we can't receive it. Ladies, open up your receiving. Just say, go like this, just as an act of it, just open up your receiving this morning, okay? Because we're going to walk out of here as world changers, right? So if you do get caught into it, a psychologist back in 1954, there was the first person that really identified it as a theory. And there's what is called upward and there's downward. Well, I don't know about you. I like a balanced life. I'm like, is there there's choice A, choice B. Is there another option? Upward is where I could never aspire to be like her. And you're constantly get caught up in envy living through the lens of someone else's life. I want to be like her. I want to be like her. I want to be like her. Hollywood does this with our kids, doesn't it? How many of our kids look up to people like that? They compare themselves. I have a friend, Jen Godson, who lives in New York, and she's an amazing woman. She's an actress, and she's been in multiple films. Matter of fact, it's Christmas season, so let me put a plug in here. Watch The Farmer and the Belle. Cute little Christmas story. But she is so amazing. We had her speak at one of our events, I guess about 3 years ago. And she understood because she was a model. And we put pictures up on the board showing these young girls those legs don't even belong to her. They don't. They photoshopped everything on her. They gave her bigger boobs. They gave her a tinier waistline. They gave her different legs. What does that do to us whenever we feel like they got to correct us? And she would be the first one to tell you that it was not healthy for her. So how do we overcome this? How do we overcome this mindset, these things that have been put on us from commercials and social media, and even maybe families, members, or friends with good intentions say things to us that make us feel less than? Ladies, we're not less than. We are greater than. So whether you are trying to look up to someone and be them, guess what? They're already taken. They're already taken. You will never be like them. Look at your fingerprint for just a moment. I want you to just kind of look at it. And I want you to realize you are so fearfully and wonderfully made. You are so beautiful. You are just like you were supposed to be. If not, you would be somebody else, right? So we do this sometimes without realizing it. Especially the downward thing. Man, I wish I'm glad I'm not like her. If I had that husband, and we start looking down on people. So there's the upward side and then there's the downward side. Oh, she's so great and I want to be like her. I wish I had what she had, or drove what she drives, or had the career she has. This season you might be in an area where you're just launching into a new career, but yet you're measuring yourself here to the CEO. Do you know what she did to get there? You wouldn't want to have to walk her road, right? Because that's her road. You got your own. So how do we do this? We shake up things in our mind because as we have thought patterns, I'm really into like brain science, and we start to create these pathways, and we can either create positive or negative ones, and we can renew our minds. But we have to get out of the stinking thinking of I'm not enough, or I can do better, or even sometimes we lead to self-sabotage, where we get to that point where we worked really hard but we don't feel deserving. Just like that, we can't, take it. What are you comparing yourself to today? When you were having those conversations, and I hope you ask yourself the question, Dad or Dad, I hope whenever you leave today, when you find some quiet time alone, you start to look at, what am I comparing myself to? My legal name is Mary Margaret. I go by Maggie. You know why? Several reasons. Number one, Mary Margaret is a very good Catholic name. I was not a good Catholic kid. I was like, I don't think I can earn that. It was always a no or somebody with a name. The other reason is because everywhere I ever worked or went to school, there was always at least one or two Marys. And I didn't like being called Mary number 2 or Mary number 3. Right? But today when I walked in here, I met Sparkles. And I was like, what a name! Why couldn't Mom name me something really cool like that? I would aspire to be that name. I would have a long road to go with that name. Right? But the reality is I'm not her. God, she's created to be Sparkles. I'm not, okay? But I will wear my blade when I can. So basically, when you're going downward, what does that look like? I'm better than that. Wow. That's a dangerous spot. Sure glad I'm not where they're at. Married to who they're married to. Why, that's not my kid. So neither one of those, do you see how neither one are really healthy? So that in between, that homeostasis that we're looking for in our life is balance. Because see, it can be good to stir each other on by, yes, you can go back to college, or yes, you can start that business, or yes, you can, travel the world, whatever it is you're called to do, but not because someone else is doing it, because that is what you were supposed to be doing in this season. And seasons change. We were talking about the difference between how sometimes our comparison stuff isn't the same, right? As like my comparison now is not the same as it was whenever I was going to college. I had a terrible time when I was going to college because I also had a GED, and I went back to college as an adult woman with 2 kids, working full time, going to school, wanting to smash my head into the wall, thinking, why am I doing this? But I knew that I had to get out of the mess I was in, and the only way I could do that was to become educated. But I would walk into a classroom, and I would be in there with all of those other students, and I'd look around and think, there's something they learned their sophomore year that I don't know. And it was to be so hard. I was a working mom raising 2 kids, waiting tables at the local country club. So whenever I overcome some of the problems I was going through, and I was the person sitting at the country club, it was hard for me because I was like, I don't deserve to be here. They're better than me. So whether you are looking at people thinking that they're better than you, I want you to say, no more. Yeah, no more. So that comes in. Okay, so how do we do this? We practice something called self-compassion. We hear a lot about self-care. I love self-care. Don't you love self-care? It's so fun. But self-care is really more than just mani-pedis. But mani-pedis are good. Okay, they're really good. I highly recommend that. Massages are the jam. You definitely, yes, I totally get that. Because you are important. Everything about you is important. The way that you live your life, the way that you raise your kids, the way that you do your business, everything is important. But if you don't take care of you, nobody else is going to do it. So you have to give yourself a little bit of self-compassion. Whenever you're looking at the person that's flying off to Italy for it seems like the 3rd time, or in the Bahamas again, going to the beach, and you haven't been to the beach in 3 years, you got to remember, wait a minute, I'm saying yes to what I'm doing right now. I'm going to sacrifice. A lot of people, when they're raising their kids, they really feel like, I should do more in the workforce. I should volunteer more. I should have more time and so forth. But the things that you're doing are just as important. So what season of life are you in? Self-compassion is treating ourselves with kindness. Listen, if you're saying something to yourself that you would not say to your girlfriend, we look in the mirror in the morning sometimes, and I hit 60 this year, the big 6-0. Woo! Man, if that had not hit a booger. Just like I woke up and I was like, oh, this is not good. I started looking for the lines and I'm like, man. And then I got a revelation one day whenever I was looking at my hair because I got tired of coloring it. And I let it go natural. And all of a sudden, everybody's going with white hair. And I'm like, hey, I'm trendy. This is good, I'm trendy. I've come to realize that those of us with gray hair, we've gained some wisdom over the years. And there's some things that maybe I said this morning to y'all, something I wish someone would have said to me. I wish somebody would have said, girl, you are okay right where you're at. And if you're not okay, then you're going to be okay because you don't have to stay there. And it depends on whether or not what area of your life you're looking at. So you need to highlight and celebrate the things that you're doing. Celebrate the people around you. I think that it's super important that if we find ourselves in a stage where we can really, truly be honest with ourselves. Another area of comparison is I'm very extroverted. And some of y'all probably didn't notice that. So the women that are soft-spoken, and I shared this with the table, I'm always going, oh man, I wish I was more like that. I wish I could learn to keep this mouth shut sometimes. But it is who I am. She's already taken. You're not her. Celebrate your wins, ladies. I want you to stop for just a moment. I want to think about what was your win this week. I'm a part of a lot of different organizations, and this one group, I post every week, what was your win this week? Because sometimes we have to look for it. If your win was getting out of bed, getting showered and dressed and out of the house, yay. If it was that small of a win, maybe you're dealing with chronic health issues, or maybe you're just in a season where you're going through a job change and you're overly stressed out. Stop comparing your lowest point of your life to the highest point of someone else's. Have you ever noticed on Facebook or Insta or even TikTok? So for you younger people, so I just got on TikTok. I swore I'd never do it, but I had to do it because of the ministry. Anyway, it's a long story. But we look where people really don't show the dark side. We only see the high reels of their life. And everybody's got those areas. It's like the liquor commercials. Have you ever noticed on these billboards, they've got this beautiful woman and her hair is perfect and she just great outfit, smiling, looks so happy, and she's got that bottle of bourbon next to her, right? You guys see it, right? It doesn't show her the next morning hungover, with an empty bottle of bourbon, with her mascara all over her face because she's been crying because she don't know what happened the night before. I'm just saying, there is so much right there, but yet we don't look at that, and they certainly don't post that on social. So here's some keys to be able to limit the areas of comparison. Number one, just agree in your head, I'm not going to compare. Unless it's a happy comparison that's going to encourage you. You want to minimize your social media feed if you have toxic things coming up. If there are things, you know your triggers. If there are things that, get you every single time, start to unfollow, take a break, fast social, whatever it takes. If you find yourself getting in a state where you are so consumed with everybody's wins that you can't see your wins, it kind of overshadows it, right? Encourage other people. I am a cheerleader, right? Now, I was never a cheerleader when I was young because, see, I was really intimidated by the cheerleader crowds. About a decade ago, something really cool happened to me. I married my junior high sweetheart. He was a football player, and he was hot. He was hot. And so I was so crazy about this guy, but I was so insecure that I had to reject him before he could reject me. Because, see, I was not the cheerleading type of girl. I was the type of girl with my Levi's and my rock concert t-shirt on and just as a rebel and wild and crazy. And I knew that someone like him possibly couldn't care about someone like me. But I was his first love. He never got married. We ran across each other about 12 years ago on Facebook, of course. Facebook has its ups, It's not a comparison. And I thought to myself, oh, there's Kavanaugh. He was one of the few decent guys I dated. What did I do to go wrong? And then I realized, I broke his heart. And so we started messaging. And I thought that he has a really jacked up theology. So I thought, this guy needs help. So we start talking about things that he needs to change, right? Isn't that what we do? We find a hot guy and we're going to change him, right? So, I did the whole codependency thing. That doesn't work, by the way. So anyway, I was just being a good friend. I had no interest. I was certain that I had a really, really bad marriage last go around, and I was never going to get married again. But I married that man. You know why? Because he held something dear in my heart all of those years. And I was real self-conscious, and I would compare my body image with other women. So if you came in and your hair was pulled back, I was like, oh my gosh, she's got beautiful ears. I do not. They come outward. As a kid, they called me Dumbo. And so, but my husband now, when we started conversing, I had my hair up in a ponytail, and he's like, I love that you're showing your ears. He goes, I love your ears. And that just showed me that our perspective of ourselves can be so messed up. Because the thing that I hated the most about me, he didn't make me run. Women were talking about getting boob jobs. I'm like, forget the boobs. I want hairpin. I was at the head on my head and go down at night so that I could show my ears. So you're going to limit your social media, right? You're going to make a choice, a decision, and you're going to change your mindset. With your mindset changing, every time you get a thought that they're better than you, grab it. Take it captive. Don't allow it to penetrate your heart because you'll start focusing on that. You'll never make your goal. So it will steal your joy, and it breeds very negative emotions, just in a summary there. And it reiterates the negative in us. So we already have enough of those thoughts. In a room the size of women, I am certain that everybody at one point has compared yourself. Stop it. Just stop it. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, stop it. I am valued. I am cherished. I am called. I can do hard things. I'm an overcomer. If you have to talk to yourself every morning before you leave your house, do it. If you have to put sticky notes on your car, do it. Because if you do not, it will definitely get you in a position where you will constantly stay in that cycle of negative thinking and negative perspective of yourself. and it'll carry over in your relationships, and it'll sabotage your careers. I went from being that girl to working in corporate America for 15 years, and I had to do all this like personal development and all of these things that are really great now. But I can remember then thinking, I can't do those things. I couldn't possibly ever go back and get my master's, but I did. I was thinking I could never start a nonprofit, but I did. I did those things scared. I did those things thinking that maybe I couldn't. But if you think it, that's what you're going to get. So you have to change your paradigm shift. So I want you to think about, in your quiet time, what is an area of my life that I want to stop it? Because if you don't, and we're almost out of time here, so you will end up with what's called imposter syndrome. And I want to give you, you're probably thinking, I don't have that, or I could never have that, but I want to just give you some of the negative coping mechanisms so that you can recognize it if it is something you're struggling with. Under-functioning, missing opportunities, procrastinating. Yikes. That was like slap me in the face. Avoiding difficult conversations, failing to be assertive, difficulty asking for help, or staying under the radar. Hiding. Have y'all ever done that? Y'all ever just hit out? I just can't do it. Here's the over-functioning part. Working long hours, difficulties delegating, extreme attention to detail. Just to micromanage everything about your life, you know? So that's ladies are changing your clothes 5 times before you go out the door. Don't do it. Just put on what you look cute. If you bought the outfit, you like it, somebody's going to compliment you, just wear it. So that extreme attention to detail will get you. And trouble just switching off. Just being. Just relaxing. I struggle with that. I have an ADHD brain. I have dyslexia. And so I've always had to, over the years, I've had to reprogram how I think. And sometimes I just can't switch my brain off. Take belly breaths, ladies. Take care of yourself. And over-preparing and or perfectionism. So if you suffer with any of those, you might be on the verge of imposter syndrome. And it's not necessarily something that is going to go away unless you address it. So I hope that you ladies don't get to that point where it does, because I certainly did. I have a very, very hard time felt in my own skin. I just thought I had to be different. Because the first version of me was so messed up, I knew that it had to be better. So I kind of did what she did as far as finding things. I found women that encouraged me, inspired me. I didn't want to be like them, but I wanted the attributes they had. I wanted boldness, I wanted courage, I wanted to be able to step out and say yes to the things that I know that I'm supposed to be doing. Ladies, you have so much in you. This is such a powerful group. You guys are moving forward into your destiny. Whatever you've been waiting to do and you're not doing because you don't want to be compared to someone else and you think that you don't measure up, or if you are just stuck and hiding, today is the day to be set free. When you walk out that door today, I want you to think about it. I want you to think about, what do I need to let go? What negative mindset is holding me back do I need to let go? This is a topic that we could go on for days. We could actually do a weekend intensive on or something like that. But I hope today that you take away something. And then when you're thinking about it, it could be you're measuring yourself financially. I do that a lot because I had kind of a late start on life. You know, I'm always looking at, like my friend Lisa back here. Lisa has this big, great, beautiful house. I have this small, minimal house. And you know what? If I want to be in a big house, I'll go to hers. Because what? I don't have to clean her. Okay? I don't have to clean her 4 bathrooms. Okay? So what I'm saying is, wherever you're at this morning, ladies, I hope that you walk away with a nugget of something you're going to let go of and something you're going to embrace. I want you to let go of the comparison, and I want you to embrace your true authenticity to be the woman that you're called to be. Thank you very much.